Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Brother Tom again. Basically, figured I would do a video about what you should do before you decide to take a raggedy vehicle on the road. Now, your vehicle might not be raggedy. In fact, your vehicle might be in good shape. I done forgot to turn this phone sideways again, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. So your vehicle might be in alright shape. You might be fine. Don't worry, it's a short video, I think. But in my case, we ain't fine. We got a lot going on here, and I mean, uh, given I've kind of put this thing back together, and most of it's kind of rigged up, so it was just an emergency thing that I needed to redo this, top in on this engine when I got it because we didn't have no transportation briefly. So anyway, so this is the things that you should do before you hit the road. First thing you want to do, ain't got nothing to do with the engine. You want to check your tires. Make sure your tires ain't got no cracks in them, no splits. Make sure that they're good. Also, if they do, you might want to change it. Like this one here, for instance. Let's see, it's cracked. It's got splits in it all the way down the tire. In fact, I think the other side of it has a knot in it somewhere because it's hopping up and down. Yeah, that tire is going to need to be replaced. Am I going to replace it? Ain't got the money to do that. So we going to ride. We going to see what happens. Now, I do have a spare. That's another thing you should check for before you leave, is make sure that you have a spare. Because if you don't have a spare, you could be in despair without one. So let's check our spare. Alright, so we have a spare tire that hasn't been used in probably 20 years. But there ain't no cracks in it. But that don't mean that it's any good. This tire is probably dry rotted to I don't know what. But ain't no cracks in it. So even if it does, if I do have a blowout with that one, it won't be a big deal because I at least have that one to get me off the highway and hopefully get me somewhere to get another tire. Unless I'm in the middle of nowhere, in which case you should always carry two spares. I'm talented. I like to bust the tire off the rim by hand myself and put the other tire on the rim by hand myself. My grandfather taught me that when I was really young, because that's how we used to have to put them on the trash trucks. But for the people who ain't that talented, it might be a little bit harder for you. Alright, moving on. First thing you want to check, your brake fluid. Now, the brake fluid is fairly important because without this, you ain't stopping. And I've had my bouts with not stopping. So you want to check that. As you can see, it's dirty and it's low. Really low. So I'm going to have to change that at some point. But I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to add to it for now because the brakes are somewhat working. At least the front ones are. Next thing you want to check, and this is something that is going to be debatable amongst people, you always want to check the back side of the oil cap. Why? Because on the inside of, on the inside, on this part right here, you can get sludge in there, and it'll be like a white, milky type stuff. And if you have white and milky inside of that, trust me, don't go nowhere. Now, it might just be condensation, but if it's hot like this outside, it's probably not condensation. Next thing you want to check, now, as a matter of fact, before I move on to the next thing, if there's white milky stuff in there, you probably have a blown head gasket or a blown intake manifold gasket. Don't drive far on that. Now, I ain't saying not to drive, but you want to tear something up if you continue to drive on that. And then there is your belt. Now, this belt's seen better days. I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't focus on that, but this belt's seen better days, but it's not cracked. It's not dry rotted. It's not that bad. It's just got a bunch of oil on The oil's probably from the rear, the bottom seal, front seal. Not a big deal because it doesn't go through a lot of oil like that, but I know it's a leak somewhere. And the reason that I know it's a leak, and I don't know if y'all can see that, if you look on the back side of the hood, underneath of the hood, there's a line right here from where water has gotten on the belt and flung up. Okay, if that line has oil in it, you have an oil leak. All right, moving on. Now this is a brand new battery, so I ain't worried about that. And the alternator, believe it or not, is, even though it looks old, it's not old. It came out of my shed and it's just been sitting in my shed for like 10 or 15 years. And I put that on there when I put the engine back together because I had to put a fuel spider in here, which requires all of that to go. And while I was at it, I did the intake gaskets and I did 3 push rods on this head and a head gasket. So when I put it back together, this is just a jumbled up thing of parts from different S10s, really. That's because I didn't have all the parts to put it back together. So anyway, other thing you want to check, being one of the main things you want to check, is your transmission fluid. Now, some of y'all have a little thing on it that does one of these. Yeah, you gotta do that to get it off. Now, you pull that out. Okay, so I have none. So we're gonna have to add transmission fluid for sure. And also, if it's dirty, I don't know if you can see that, but if it's dirty like that, then you probably want to have it changed or at least looked at before you hit the road. Now in this case, I know that it was dirty when I bought the thing. I ain't too worried about it. I know it's been changed, and I also know that it's gonna probably need some things at some point, but I know that we're good to go because I just put a valve body in the transmission also. Aside from that, I think my buddy rebuilt the transfer case on here when he had it. The other thing that you want to check would be the oil. Ooh, shit, that's hot. Okay, the oil. Alright, so the oil is blacker than, well, I could use a lot of terms to describe what the oil is blacker than, but I won't do that. But the oil is extremely black. It needs to be changed. Honestly, it ain't been changed since I've had it. And that was a long, long time ago. The filter for these, just in case you're wondering, if you happen to have one, is actually right here. I don't know if you can see that or not. But the filter for it is right there. It is not underneath on these. So don't let anybody lie to you and tell you your filter's underneath on a Chevy Blazer that's 4-wheel drive. If it's 2-wheel drive, it might be underneath. And I think I've covered everything. This is the air cleaner, by the way. It's not connected. I lost that a long time ago, the pipe that goes to it. Not too worried about it. It's just a rolling junker, but it's something you definitely want to have is the air cleaner because it keeps the dirt from getting inside the intake. So later on, I might go get me a little small one and stick on here. And the other thing you want to check, but make sure you check it when it's cold. It doesn't say it on this cap. Make sure you check it when it's cold, is the antifreeze. Because if you don't have antifreeze, it's going to run hot especially on a hot day like today. And you don't want it to run hot when you are in the middle of nowhere and ain't no water around for 100, 200 miles. That 1 gallon of antifreeze that costs $8 might cost you $300 or $400 in a tow job just to go get some antifreeze. Just a thought. So don't be cheap when it comes to these things. Try to do as best you can about not being cheap. Anyway, just wanted to make that video. If you like this video, go ahead, like and subscribe. And if you don't like the video, go ahead, like and subscribe. And if you happy and you know it, clap your hands. And also, take a moment today to tell somebody you love them. because the mind ain't promised, and sometimes we don't get the chance to tell people that we love them. Don't feel like you're being, funny if you tell somebody you love them. They're probably going to wonder what the hell is wrong with you, but tell them anyway. Tell them anyway. If you love them, tell them you love them. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Gotta go take a shower now and get something to drink.